Hi, Chantelle.
Hi, thanks for
Hello,
having
welcome to
me.
Where's Your Head At? And first of all, where's your head at?
My head at where am I right now? I mean, I'm quite jet lagged actually because I just got back from Europe,
Ah, yes.
not yesterday, but the day before. So I've been up quite early this morning, but I'm happy. I'm happy to be back at work and kind of getting into the rhythm.
Yeah. And I've seen on your socials you've been doing some egg freezing before you went away. Can you talk us through that?
Yeah. So it feels like a lifetime ago now. How long ago was it? Like 3.5 weeks. So I have done 2 rounds of egg freezing now. The first round was filmed on a TV show called Big Miracles. That was last year. And I did it because I have a lot of young people coming into my office and they're kind of rushing out of like healthy relationships and getting into relationships that may be more viable to kind of have a family with, or like I don't know, like there's like this biological clock that's ticking for a lot of patients of mine, but also there's a lack of awareness around like fertility and where you're at in your like in your fertility journey as well, and if you're going to have some challenges. So I kind of thought I can't keep talking about people egg freezing if I actually don't know much about the process. So I did it for the show, and the first round that I did was quite seamless. And I have polycystic ovaries, and I got so many eggs. I got 40 eggs out in my first round, which is
Wow.
like 4 times the normal amount.
That's insane.
Um, yeah, it was crazy. And then because of that, I thought, well, I'll do one more round, and then I should have a lot of eggs that I can donate as well because it's very hard to find egg donors in Australia.
Wow.
People are really tied to their their biological material. So for me, I'm not. I'm like, how amazing to be able to give the gift of life to people. So I did another round a couple of weeks ago. And to be honest, the second round was pretty brutal for me. But I'm definitely feeling like my body is getting back to normal now, which is awesome.
That's incredible that you are willing to do that for so many people, like to give a couple the chance at having a baby. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, it
So you
is.
didn't go through the egg freezing process for yourself to freeze them for further down the track. You did it for research, you're saying?
No, it's not for research, not at all. No, it's
Oh,
to so the first one was for it is all like obviously they're my eggs. I get to keep them.
Yeah.
yeah,
The ones I don't use, I donate them.
yeah,
But it's a combination of things. It's for educating people.
yeah,
It is, yeah, maybe it is a little bit about research as well, for sure.
Yeah.
It's about my fertility journey, but it's also about helping other people create their own families as well.
Yeah, I went to the gynecologist actually recently, and I'm 31, and
Mhm.
he basically said to me, like, you really should think about freezing your eggs. And it kind of caught me off guard. Like, it was, I don't know, you get to 31 and you just don't expect to that even to be a conversation with a random
Mm.
gynecologist, and I just felt very caught off guard. So I think it must be, how is the process of getting to actually, getting there?
Yeah. Well, so 31, you're in your like prime fertile age, but also like egg freezing is not a guarantee, right? It
Yeah.
is definitely a safety blanket, but it's not a guarantee because even though like my eggs might be healthy, doesn't mean that they're going to survive the process of freezing and unfreezing. Doesn't mean that my partner's sperm is going to be healthy. You know, there's so many factors to consider, also environmentally as well. But I think for us, like I'm 32 years old, once you get to the age of 35, you're considered geriatric and you're actually not allowed to donate eggs after the age of 35 if your eggs
really?
are over the age
Wow.
of 35. Yeah.
That's so
So
young.
isn't it crazy? But I'm like, I'm still so young. Like I'm not
Yeah,
ready.
Same,
But,
same. We are.
I guess like biologically speaking, we're kind of getting to that age where our body's going, yeah, well, the quality of our eggs is going to start changing as well, because we're all born with the amount of eggs that we're ever going to have, and then each month we shed a certain amount, and one usually, or maybe two if you're like prone to twins or more, will be I guess provided to meet with sperm and to possibly create a baby when you get your period.
Yeah. See, I love that. Even just
when you go through ovulation and your period,
like the twins thing, like I just don't like think about that.
Yeah, I mean, I've never really thought about the egg process for women at all, and how it's going into freezing. And 35 seems so young to be like they're not competent eggs. I think I'm not even gonna...
Well, it's not a guarantee that they're not competent. It's just like there's a possibility, that the quality is going to be a lot lower. And it's not just for people who are menstruating, which is, I guess, what you call women, but a lot of people who don't identify as that also menstruate. But for people who, have sperm as well, it is kind of like 50-50 in a way, or like 40-40 and then 20% external factors as well.
Yeah. Well, look, Chantelle, you are a sexologist, so we want to talk all things sexology. I guess my first question for you is, when does someone usually consult you for sex advice? Like, what is going on with them that they need to kind of hit you up or book an appointment?
I think we will all have questions about sex at some point, no matter what age we are or gender or orientation. But I would say like my main demographic for my clinic, because I run a large clinic in Australia, I would say that usually between like 18 and 45 would be the kind of range. And that's when maybe like around 18 is like figuring out more around how to have pleasure, and maybe if there's some challenges around performance anxiety or learning more about your body or your menstrual cycles. Maybe it's learning more about boundaries, consent, body autonomy. Maybe there's painful sex conditions involved. That, I guess, would be the kind of concerns I would see for that age range. Whereas when we get towards our like kind of mid-20s to like mid-40s, that's about having more fun. Maybe it's about long-term relationships. Maybe it's about being single for the first time and, navigating like how to be single and how to have like more casual interactions as well. But yeah, I think in longer term relationships, we would see like difficulties with desire, maybe some challenges around orgasm or premature ejaculation or erectile dysfunction. So to be honest, it's really when you have a question or concern that you don't know how to find the answer to. I think all of us need to see a sexologist at some point, myself included. And I just think that, it's actually quite like a lot of us are having sex, or if we're not having sex, maybe we want to be having more sex. So that's where someone like myself would come in.
Love it.
Take us through sorry, I've got a cough. Talk us through how you become a sexologist. Do you have to study to get a PhD? Like what is it? Like?
No, you just got to like sex.
Oh, really? So it's just...
No, I'm joking. Of course you have to study. Are you kidding me?
I don't think I should be giving advice to people.
Look, no, look, it's an interesting one because it's an unregulated profession in Australia. There are a lot of people who are online at the moment who are saying they are certified sex experts or certified sexologists, and they have done like a certificate from like an online learning platform, which isn't actually valid. You have to go through university. Usually you come from like a psychology, counseling, medical or scientific background, or like health kind of background. And then you have to go on and do your master's degree. So I did psychology, and then I did my master's of science in medicine, and I specialized in sexual medicine. But then I also did a sexology degree when I lived in Amsterdam as well, and then trained with the European Society of Sexual Medicine. So not everyone does that amount of education, but like typically if you are going to see a sexologist, you should be looking at their qualifications and going, do they have a background, if you're seeing them for therapy, do they have a background in therapy, counseling or psychology? Have they done a master's degree in sexual medicine? And just, don't don't always look at people's titles, because people love to title themselves, especially on social media.
So true.
What made you want to study the sexual side of psychology, and that, like, what made you, attracted you, for a better term of words, to that side of it?
The sexual side of psychology. Well, I think that like sexual medicine is such an interesting area in general, and it's not just psychology, it's biology, it's interpersonal relationships, it's your sociocultural surroundings, so your culture, where you grew up, the notions of the country that you live in, or your religion, etc. I think for me, psychology was like nice, and I've always had an interest in people, and I've always wanted to help people, and it didn't have to be sexology. I used to work in like drug and alcohol rehabilitation, and then I also worked in like research at the Royal Children's Hospital here as well. So I think wherever I felt stimulated enough to be enthusiastic to get out of bed and get to work, that for me was like good enough. Yeah. And then there just kind of came a point where I was like, I love talking about sex. Sex is super fun. For me, my background is Dutch. My family's super open when we talk about sex. And I kind of realized so many people didn't have that privilege. And I saw a lot of my friends taking risks when it came to their sex lives, or, misogyny, like these notions of misogyny. This is like when American Pie was like at its prime, and we were learning about, I don't know, like sex in all the wrong ways. And I think as a femme person, I remember just thinking, oh, it's something like I have to do because that's what's expected of me, and I have to be wild and crazy. And we all kind of learned through porn. And I just thought, like, there's so much more to this. Like, it's such a complicated topic. Why aren't we talking about it more? And then I also read Esther Perel's book, and it's called Mating in Captivity. And that book really spoke about like complexities in relationships and nuances of desire in long-term relationships. And I thought, wow, there's so much for me to learn that I know I could be learning really for the rest of my life on this topic. So I'm interested in going into it. And that's why I kind of, yeah. And my mum also was like, you'd be a really good sexologist. So that's how I kind of got into it.
I love that.
You got her blessing.
I love it. Do your family and friends ask you for, or like kind of rely on you for like free advice and consultations? I feel like if you were one of my besties, I'd be like, okay, I need all of the info.
Actually, like not at all. Like none of them talk to me about their sex lives at all. No, I think they're just like, because at the end of the day, it's my job. And like sometimes they'll be like, oh, I need help, or like, oh, my partner wants to try this. I don't know how to do it, or what would be a toy that you would recommend. But I would say when people see me, like my friends see me, they don't think of me as Chantelle Otten, sexologist. Yeah. I'm just Chantelle, Shanti to them. So I would say though, maybe like my best friend was saying to me the other day, my best friend's also my manager, and she was like, I don't think you realize how much like you do help people with their overall health and well-being, because I'm always like, oh, like maybe you should look at this, or like if you've got a lump, like probably need to check that out. Or they'll be like, what does this medication mean, or what does if someone has got this personality disorder, what would that mean for their relationship? So I think maybe without actually like saying the word sex, I help a lot of my friends and family out in that area, but I wouldn't say they're coming to me directly. I also say to them, like, I don't see my friends as patients. They can see one of my staff instead, because otherwise there's like a bias there that is not healthy for therapy.
Yeah. What does a regular day in the clinic look like for you? And I guess like what's the most fulfilling or rewarding part of a day helping someone? Like what really like fills your cup? What type of problem?
So I don't really have regular days in the clinic anymore. I think if we'd spoken about 5 years ago, I would have been able to tell you I worked like 9 a.m. till 9 p.m. and it was back-to-back sessions. Yep. Now, because I've got over 20 staff members, it's like my day's super varied. I also work, outside of the clinic with media and consulting and, doing kind of projects that are educating people on a larger level. But if I was to go into the clinic, actually, maybe I'll explain like my day today. So, for example, today I woke up at about 6:30, and then I kind of like went through my Slack and I spoke to my EA, and then I kind of looked at all the emails coming through for the clinic and allocated each email to a different therapist, or each person kind of making an inquiry to a different therapist. And then I delegate tasks to my EA, and then I get my ass kicked by my manager. And she's like, you need to be doing this. I need this content. You need to do media commentary on like these 5 articles, etc. And then like I've had a sauna, I've had a shower, and then now we've got a podcast. I guess a bit later this week, I'll see some patients, and I only see patients pro bono, so people who can't afford to pay for therapy.
Wow.
And that's because I have that privilege because I earn money, I guess, through sponsorships and consulting. And then I also see a few other patients that are probably quite challenging, like heavy medical conditions, cancer, or like psychiatric concerns or narcissistic personality disorder patients. And then what else am I doing today? Gosh, I've just got a few like meetings this afternoon. I know I need to catch up with 3 of my staff this week. And then I'm traveling interstate twice as well this week. So I have that's a normal week for me. Yeah. But if you were one of my therapists working in my office, my team make their own schedules around their lifestyle so that they can have a good quality of life. They want to go to the gym, they can do that. They want to take their kids to school, they can do that. So they make their own schedules, and I would say they get in there. A session's typically about 50 minutes, and you do about 10 minutes to kind of wind down, maybe write some notes, maybe you take 20 minutes or half an hour. It depends on each therapist and their preference. And you make treatment plans, you refer to other specialists as well. You make sure that you're, I guess, on top of the latest research, but also you're looking at doing supervision with other specialists so you can get outside opinions on maybe a particular patient or a concern that you might need some different opinions on or different types of advice or specialty on.
That's amazing that you do pro bono work. I think that's really amazing. How do people like reach out to you to kind of get this assistance?
Usually they'll come to the clinic and they'll say like, I can't afford it, or once in a while I'll put out like a call out on my social media for people, and they can apply. Also, if we have like student therapists coming through, that's a really good opportunity because then patients get like a really discounted session. So instead of like, over $150, it's like $50 or $90 instead for a session. So they're still getting the advice, and all the students are supervised by myself as well. So they're kind of getting the advice that I would give, but by proxy through the student instead. But I would say like the pro bono patients come through because they're usually referred by a different specialist to me that I've got quite a good connection with.
Yeah.
You were saying before how a lot of homes find it taboo to talk about sex in the house with like their kids and parents. What's your opinion on teaching it more in schools to the kids so they have a better understanding of it? Because like you said, a lot of people learn through porn, and that gives them a warped opinion on what sex actually is.
I mean, I'm so pro it. Why wouldn't you be? I think we all need to have as much education as possible. And there are some really great organizations providing sex education in school. It's becoming way more popular. And we can see through advocates like Chanel Contos, for example, talking about consent, and some really like amazing people who are pushing for better sex education in school, that we're getting to a better place. Obviously, there's still a long way to go, but obviously very pro.
I learned like a lot of Australians did, I think in Melbourne especially, threw a giraffe in a van Remember Harold the
Yeah, I
giraffe?
didn't get
I didn't get
that.
that
You
either.
didn't
I
get
went to a
that?
Catholic school.
And
We weren't allowed to talk about sex at
we
all.
went on that, yeah, and the giraffe would come out of like the wall and be like, "Don't do drugs. This is sex." When you think about it, it's actually kind of creepy.
It's so
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's
I actually was born in the UK, and we just basically, I mean, I'm talking from my personal experience at my school, but we had like zero sex education.
You'd think they're a bit more forward over there.
No.
Really?
No, nothing at all.
No, it's actually like in the UK, there's not a huge amount of, like, there's a lot of like qualified sexologists there. They're doing a really good job with educating people like myself or health practitioners. But I think it's quite also very difficult to become a sexologist in the UK as well. But sex education, I think, is quite similar to Australia.
Yeah.
What's too young to teach them, do you reckon?
Yeah.
I think that it depends on what you're looking at. I think you can talk about boundaries and you can talk about asking for consent at quite a young age. Like from the age of 4, you can start learning about how you feel within your body, where are like places that you can touch, what pleasure feels like, but also like parts of your body that should not be touched and that are just for you. You can also learn about different types of families as well, and you can learn about having 2 moms or 2 dads or having a community raise you. So there's so much that you can learn from a younger age that I think we kind of should be bringing it forward, considering like a lot of young people are having their sexual debuts a lot earlier, around like 11, 12 as well.
I think my mum was very good at teaching us that sort of stuff from a young age, like the consent and what's not, like all that sort of stuff. My mum was all over that from like around, I reckon, 4 or 5.
And your family's very open. So your family's very open and my family's very not. So we've come from like 2 very different backgrounds. And then Chantelle, you said that your family was also very open when talking about sex. It's just, so interesting that everyone has a different experience, like almost like a starting point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my family is like open, but they're also conservative at the same time. Right. So, yeah.
What's something that you've learned through being a sexologist that you wish maybe you'd known sooner?
Oh my God, like everything. I think that it would have been nicer kind of when we were younger to be reminded that there's no one size fits all. I think as well, I've learned a lot more about how to remain curious with people, because I think we kind of can become know-it-alls and we think that we know so much about like the world that we live in and other people, but every day I'm learning something new about people that I spend hours and hours and hours of time learning about. People always have the ability to shock and surprise you. And I think that as well can be carried over into relationships. I think that we can become very complacent. I think that we can also think that sex is something that should be coming naturally to all of us quite easily. And we should always be horny, and that it's like not something that we necessarily need to work on. But again, like that's not the case. It's a relationship that you need to work on with yourself and with another person ongoing for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Then what would you say to someone that's listening and they're in a relationship and it's long term and they're really hit a dry spell? What would be some advice for them in that situation?
I would say, like, don't put it off. Like, don't put off working on it or communicating about it. I would say put your, like, any anger or frustration to the side because it's not going to get you laid either. So, like, come from a place of kindness, of love, really practice empathy as well. If you're having any mental health concerns, if you're suffering from anxiety or depression, or you find that, that you're bickering a lot, address that first, like lead the way. Don't always expect your partner to be the one that has to change because you both have to change at the end of the day. And I think we get so, like all the time I'm hearing about blah, 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 didn't do this or blah, 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 didn't do that, or they don't want me anymore. Or it's just like, you're the only one that can change yourself. So go forward and do it. And hopefully the other person will follow you, but also like lean into the amount of available resources there are out there. Like there's so many great sex experts who are being very generous, putting their time and effort into social media content or providing courses or like even answering DMs from people who are not paying them. Lean into the amount of resources that are healthy and that are out there these days, and do something about it. Don't put it on the back burner.
Are there any topics that, I guess, if you had a client that you might find uncomfortable to talk about with? Like, is there anything that kind of would cross your boundaries?
Yeah, there's always things that that are particular to you as a therapist that you might not want to deal with. For some people, it'll be like a paraphilia. For some people, it'll be like sexual assault or, I guess practices that might be illegal or involving minors. I think for myself, I don't put up with people who are rude or engage in like, I guess practices like, who talk in a way that is unethical or slur or talk about people in a negative way. I don't put up with racism, for example, or ableism. Of course, I'm like patient and I will call it out, but you don't, at the end of the day, as a therapist, have to continue therapy with someone just because you're their therapist. You have a mutual right to break up with someone as well. And I think that if you're not enjoying seeing that patient and you're not enjoying helping them on that journey and facing their challenges together, then it's not really going to work that well. And there's so many other practitioners out there who are going to do a great job that you might necessarily like not be enthusiastic about.
Yeah.
Anna and me had a conversation the other day, actually on the phone. It wasn't on the podcast, but we were talking about like if your partner has a kink. Do you remember? We were talking about it. And like we're saying like I'm up for whatever my partner would be into. Like I'm open to whatever kinks they have. But Anna was sort of saying like there's some stuff that she wouldn't try. What's some advice to someone's that partner is really like something but you're not into that? Like is there any like middle ground? What sort of tips do you give those people?
Yeah, I think it's about like, first of all, thinking about why. I also think it's like you can never listen to someone talk about their kink and like yuck it, like make them feel ashamed of it. Yeah, we don't want to yuck something that someone finds yummy, but we have to kind of understand why they would be curious about exploring that thing. Is it a no for now or is it a no for forever when you're saying no to exploring that? Is it because you have some internalized shame or some fears around that kink as well? Or maybe if it's not for you, would you be open to the other person exploring it elsewhere? Maybe like with a sex worker, for example, or maybe if you have like someone join you and they can, like practice with that person, or are there alternatives that would be like, I guess, able to maybe replicate that kink, but not actually like stretch your boundaries too much? Or is it something that you can both just like go, all right, like we love each other. It's not on the cards. Let's like, is it a make or break for this relationship?
Yeah.
It's actually pretty good that we've got you to. I want you to fact check this comment. I remember saying this on the podcast a while ago. I actually heard it on Criminal Minds. That kinks come from an inner, what was it? Someone's inner fear or something, and that transpires into their sexual kinks. Is there any truth in that comment, or like spitting lies on the podcast that I heard on Criminal Minds?
No, it's way more complex than that. And like kinks are really common. So it's like we can't go around like diagnosing all these people with like trauma and like fear. Like it's like actually a lot of people are like excited about their kinks. So, I don't think all of them are coming from a place of fear for sure. But a lot of it's also like conditioning too, right? And you can actually recondition yourself from a lot of kinks if that's something that you want to do as well.
Yeah. What's some of the most common kinks?
I would say like BDSM, for example. A lot of people are into golden showers, a lot more than we probably realize. I would say like I even like lighter things like sexting or like videos, that kind of stuff is really hot. Talking dirty.
Yeah.
I think a bit of like dom sub play is really normal. Like,
Feet.
uh, yeah, feet's like a really big one as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Feet is like massive. Like, look at OnlyFans. If I wasn't a therapist, I'd definitely go there. It'd be so fun.
Yeah.
I mean,
So many people say that. So many of my friends are like, I have amazing feet. My feet should be on fucking OnlyFans.
I remember Anna posted something with her foot one time, and I was like, wouldn't be posting that for free. I'd be trying to make some money out of that.
Not in this day and age.
I guess when someone asks you a relationship question, do you notice the red flags in their relationship straight away, or do you kind of need to delve deep into their relationship more to uncover like really deep issues?
You kind of have to like dive a little bit deeper. Yeah. Like you can always call out what you can see, but you are getting like one side of things as well. And I think often, to take a backward step and look at like the whole picture is probably necessary. But also like come from, again, a real place of empathy. Like if you're having these troubles, what's going on for your partner as well? What's your communication like? How are you actually talking to them about these concerns too? So it's very complex. Of course you can pick up red flags, yeah, but does that mean that you are doing the right thing by calling them out? Not sure, because we all have different like bases for our relationships. Some people never fight. Some people bicker all the time, but that's their way of communicating. Like there is no one size fits all.
What would be your biggest red flag that you would see, not from a professional thing, but actually in relationships? What would be your biggest red flag?
Such a good question. Criticism, and lack of accountability would be something that I would say is a major red flag. When someone can't say, I contributed in this way.
Yeah, we've all been with someone like that.
Over the time. We all do it though. We all do it. Like I do it too. We are sometimes so caught up in our own emotions that we don't recognize. But if it's like an ongoing thing, or like when you ask someone like, and what did you do in that scenario, or what role did you play there? And they're like, what do you mean? And then that's kind of when you go, okay, well, like maybe there needs to be a little bit of self-reflection there as well.
There's three versions of a story. There's yours and the truth, isn't there?
How wise of you.
Do you determine the truth somewhere in the middle between your like patients, or do you just take it on what it is?
I just reflect back to them, and they can make their own mind up about what it is. But I'm very happy to like give an outside perspective and go, do you realize when you're talking in this way that you're not actually taking accountability for your role here?
Yeah. I have a question, and I think like when I think about myself going to a sexologist, I think I would feel very intimidated. I don't know why. But I guess like my question is, what advice would you give to someone who does want to see a sexologist, but maybe they do feel a little bit intimidated by...
I don't think Chantelle looks intimidating to go talk to.
You never know. Some people have said yes. I would say that there are so many sex experts out there who are qualified and who are really good at their jobs. Like any therapist, you have to find the person that matches with you. But at the end of the day, we choose this career because we want to help people, and we want to create a safe space for you to be able to work on your concerns. But I also think, like, I've definitely met some sexologists that I probably wouldn't want to see. And I know there's other people who have seen me and gone, Chantelle's not my cup of tea either. Like, just remember that doing one session with one person is not, like, doesn't have to be the end result for you. There is always going to be someone out there that you can find that will actually work really well for you and will help you reach your goals.
I think that's good advice all around when it comes to psychologists in general. I know a lot of people, like a couple of mates that go to one and I didn't click with them. I'm not going back. It's not work for me. And I'm like, well, try another person and see how you go. You're going to find someone that you click with.
Absolutely.
And you can talk to.
Great advice.
I was just going to say, a lot of people say that dating in 2023 is so hard, so challenging. People, like, I know a lot of my girlfriends say there's no good people out there anymore to date. Do you think that people make it hard for themselves? What advice would you give them?
It's so interesting. Okay, so I am really of the perspective that there are so many people out there in the world, but I think that we can be too shy or not forward enough. I don't think we back ourselves enough when it comes to dating. I also do think like it is a little bit rough sometimes, for sure. Dating can be challenging. I think the dating culture in Australia really sucks, to be honest. And I'm an ambassador for Bumble. Like, I'm working constantly on how to make dating more accessible, more fun, and how to kind of help people have good dating experiences. But yeah, it can be so bloody tough. But I don't know, like, I kind of always think that if you put out into the world that you're looking for something, it will find you. And I think if you're able to learn how to have a conversation with someone, whether it be on an app or like out in a bar, like, for example, I have made, like, in the past when I've been dating, like, I've made some great connections just by like noticing how people are behaving, or like being in the line for the bathroom and saying to someone like what's on your mind? If they're like, if you see them like focusing on something, just being aware of how people are moving through the world is going to be a real superpower for you. I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily like the most social person, but I have friends that are extremely social. And so balancing, if you're like dating like IRL, balancing out the way that you, I guess, come across in social situations and your friends as well is really important. Making sure that you're open. When I go out with my friends, like I don't like, I'm just like quite insular. So I talk to my friends unless there is like a random person that's sitting in that I like the look of, or like that looks like an interesting person that's sitting in a corner, like that ends up being the person that I'll talk to for the party or whatever. And obviously I'm in a relationship now, but if I think about it in a dating perspective, like I have had friends that are super talkative and they can have like a whole group of people absolutely enamored with them. And they can help you. Those people can help you create bonds with other people, or be like, oh yeah, like, you know what, like Matt likes origami and Anna likes origami too. Like, you guys should chat to each other. Like, you know, I really believe in the power of also like friendship too. And that's also one thing that I talk about so much in my job. Oh, sorry, my dog's having a little sniff around.
Show us.
Yeah, here we go. Back up again.
So cute.
He's like an old man.
You can stay on the screen, we don't mind.
You'll get too distracted now.
Oh, look at him.
He's like so sick of me as well. But I really like believe in like I know, it's so funny. Okay, I'm going to put him down because we're going to just laugh for the rest of the podcast.
Yeah, I'll get too distracted.
Yeah, Matt won't be able to concentrate.
Dog involved.
He's so funny. But I believe in like, you need to have healthy friendships as well. And I think like we're in our 30s now, we're kind of all going through these stages where we're outgrowing a few of our friendships too, or we're on different journeys or paths as well. And I don't know, like it kind of, sometimes I think, fuck, like it sucks as an adult that you have to continuously work so bloody hard on all of these relationship dynamics, but it does pay off in the long run. I also think if you're not finding it like where you are, like in your hometown or in like your usual circles, like move outside of those circles. If you are like, if you have the ability to go elsewhere, maybe it's interstate or maybe it's overseas, like go for it, but be as open as possible. Like create the person that you want to be in that scenario. You can be whoever you want when you're dating. And you really like, I just think you should go for the story, to be honest. Don't think about it as like a be all end all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do it for the plot.
Do it for the plot. That's it.
So many plot twists as well when you do it like that.
Something that's going really viral at the moment is this kind of like phenomenon where they say that guys put women in 3 groups before they meet them. And that is, what's that? The
wifey,
the fun, or not interested. What do you think of that?
I think women do it for men as well, as much as the other way around.
I've literally never, I don't know, because I've never heard of this theory. Is it like on TikTok?
It's like a TikTok thing, yeah.
Okay, I don't actually know, but I guess like it makes sense. We kind of do that as well as femme people when we're meeting others. We're like, yeah, okay, well, not interested in that person for the long run, but could be fun for like a night, right?
Yeah.
So I get it, but I think all genders do it. And all orientations do it. And I guess it depends on what you're looking for. Like some people might not be looking for like a long-term person. So maybe like, yeah, if you're looking for someone who's more casual, you're not going to be going for the person who's like wifey material. Sure. You're going for someone who's going to be up for like a good time for a period of time, right?
Also depends where you are mentally as well.
Yeah.
Like you could be in a place where you're not wanting to like, you know, settle down. So you're not really looking at that person.
Well, look, speaking of casual sex, Matt and I talk about this a lot, and that is that with casual sex, it's an exchange of energy. What's your thoughts on this? Can you have casual sex without getting attached? Or for people who do get very attached, how do they detach?
Yeah, I think you can. You have to be very self-aware, right, for casual sex, and you have to have it all laid out on the table prior to going into it, I think. Like, if you're just down for casual fun, you have to be very explicit. Like, absolutely. Do you want to have fun? Like, hey, like, I'm like, would love to, I don't know, have some fun with you or play around. I'm not looking for something right now. There's a lot of people in open relationships too these days who are like more flexible. And so I don't know, like I think we're learning a lot more about how to communicate those needs prior. If you're not good at doing that, you need to come up with like a script on your phone and keep it in your notes so that you can like copy and paste it over and send it to that person, really outlining what you're looking for, you know, what your motivations are, why you like them, what you can offer them as well. Like, if you're going into like casual sex, usually it's for pleasure, it's for validation, it's for affirmation, you know, it's for exploration. So like, provide that stuff as well. I really hate hearing about people who, I don't know, who are like up for casual sex, but they don't want to put in the hard yards to maintain a casual like sex relationship. They think it's just like, oh, it's casual, so we should just do it and like move out. Like you have to have like a bit of friendship there as well. There has to be some banter and some care and for that person. And I think a lot of people can get kind of lazy, you know.
Absolutely.
I don't find that hot. I find communication hot and sexy.
I was about to say, if you're just having like casual sex or someone, you want to be able to chat to them before and after, and like, you know, I would think if you don't get a drink with them, then yeah, if you can't sit and have a drink with them,
or a coffee or whatever it is,
there's no point sleeping with them.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it?
What advice would you give to someone who might be really inexperienced? Like maybe they're still a virgin, or they've had maybe only a small handful of sexual experiences, and they kind of feel like it's just like a big, overwhelming kind of experience to even meet someone now because they feel so far behind.
I think if they can afford to see a sexologist, that's a really good place to go. But also like start reading some books too, or listening on Audible. You can buy my book. That's always a nice one. That's like sex ed for adults. But there are some really great like resources out there where you can just learn more about the body, but also like how people interact. And then like find that confident friend, or like find someone that you can rely on who's going to give you, I guess, honest feedback, but also take care of you while you are on this journey as well, and who will help empower you to feel more confident and be the best version of yourself while you are dating and while you are exploring, but also who's not going to like judge you or make you feel ashamed for your practices or things that you don't know much about.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't recommend just going out there and experimenting? Just
No, I think that's fine too, as long as you're being kind and like considering your own boundaries and that other person's boundaries. Like, go for it. Like, experimentation is the best way to figure out how things are going to go. But if you can't communicate or ask for consent or like, give consent, then you need to do a little bit of work prior to that, because we are seeing a rise of like kind of unsafe sex practices happening in casual dating, like choking, for example, or like, maybe activities that other person's not that comfortable with, but it wasn't spoken about prior. I think you do need to actually like really invest in yourself so that you can be a better lover for someone else.
Absolutely. With going to a appointment with you, do you spread as far as like talking about tantric sex, or is that like a whole different realm?
I'm not specialized in Tantra, so I don't talk about it myself, but a few of my staff members are like very invested in Tantra. Some are invested in like Shibari, which is like Japanese bondage, rope bondage. Yeah. Some have done like more bodywork practices as well. So I tend to myself specialize in like medicine, medical conditions, and like complex trauma, whereas some of my other staff members wouldn't be able to talk about those things. So that's also why I have a team, so we can all work together. And if one of my, like, for example, I've had some patients that I've worked with for a couple of years, and then we've kind of reached like an end of the road for what I'm able to give them as a therapist. And I go, why don't you go talk to Jasmine a little bit more about, I don't know, like sex and parenting, or like, why don't you talk about orgasms with Clark? So each team member has their own specialty.
Yeah.
It's been pretty informational.
I don't want to leave and people are like, we need more from Chantelle. How do people keep things spicy in their relationships? Have we asked that question?
Yeah, we talked about desire a little bit earlier before, but we can talk. No, look, I'll add a few things here. So I think if you want to keep it spicy, again, kind of back to what I spoke about before, remain curious, ask questions. Don't assume that you always know what your partner is going to want, because as we grow, we might become interested in some different things. The sexual person that you were 10 years ago is probably very different to the sexual person you are now. Yeah. Definitely don't be shy of like sex toys or games. I think that's really important. I think also like checking in with your partner. Is there anything that you wanted to try that we haven't been able to do just yet, or you want to learn more about? I also think like change up the time and location. A lot of people get used to having sex like, okay, we'll have it just before we go to sleep. Whereas like I could not think of anything worse than trying, like, I'm so tired, get off me. I want to go to bed.
I was dating someone and that was their like horniest time, and I'm like, I've got my retainer in, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm out.
I'm done, hon. Yeah. Cute for you, but it's -3 degrees outside. It's not happening.
To be fair, though, they can probably switch me pretty quickly. The retainer comes out and goes on the bedside table. It's not hard to.
Well, that's the thing. Actually, that's like super important. Don't expect it to always be spontaneous. The responsive side of sex is very important, which is what you're talking about, where you're like, no, I'm not into it. Oh, okay, you're touching me here. Okay, I'm warming up. All right, I'm sure we can do it now.
I love spontaneous sex. That's like something that gets me going. I've always said that's. Yeah. I really like that. But then males are more spontaneous sex, don't they, over females, or is that just a generalization?
No, that's a huge generalization for sure. No. I think that's like testosterone based. So like when you wake up in the morning, as like a masculine person, like, or as a penis owner, you have more testosterone in the morning. So often like people are hornier in the morning if they have a penis, whereas like for us with our menstrual cycles, like our hormones fluctuate so much that we have to be very aware of what's happening with our menstrual cycles in order to be able to know, okay, like what time of the month are we going to be hornier? When are we going to be more tired? When is it better for like morning sex or shower sex or late night sex, or should we do it on a Sunday arvo? Like actually just being aware of your individual preferences is like really important. Yeah. But, we have to have a good amount of maintenance sex in order to be able to have spontaneous sex, especially after 2 years in a relationship, because the first 2 years, 18 months to 2 years, is like when all your endorphins are flying and you're like, I'm in love. Like, I can't believe we found each other. And then all of that dies off and you have to go, oh my God, like, do I actually really like this person? Like, can I choose this person every day? You come out of that like intensive time. And then you have to switch into more responsive sex, which is what you were talking about, where you've got your retainer in and you're like, I'm not horny. I don't want to. Okay, you're rubbing here now. It works a little bit more. I'm getting warmed up. Now I'm responding to your touch. Yeah. So that type of sex is super, super important over all life, like the whole life cycle.
It makes sense though. I come home from gym, I'm pretty ready to go around that time because my testosterone's flaring up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What is it like good amount of, like how many times a week should people be having sex? What's a good number?
There's not really a number, and I think it's unfair for anyone to preach a number. It doesn't work, because like, what if your partner lives overseas, or what if your partner's unwell? What if having it like even once a year is like, yeah, like we had our really good session and that made us feel really bonded. It's individual preferences. Some people want it every day. Some people want it twice a day. Some people want it like twice a month. It's up to you, and it's about the quality over the quantity.
What happens when two partners don't kind of connect on that? Someone wants it all the time, someone doesn't want it. Can that work? How do you make that work?
I think that's pretty common. I think we're all going to have someone who has like a higher sex drive in a relationship than the other. And you have to find your middle ground, or you have to talk about some kind of compromises that you can make and how you can make it the most fun possible for both of you. I think that's also why we're seeing more of a rise in people talking about their open relationships as well, because they're like you can love someone but not desire them, or you can desire someone and not love them. But if you have them combined, do they need to necessarily always be on par? Not exactly. If you have so much love in your relationship, but maybe your sexual preferences are different, are you able to separate the two as well? And maybe can you have your needs met in different ways?
Yeah. Do you think that that's something that you could personally do, be in an open relationship?
Again, it's not really about me, it's about the listeners. So I think they can maybe reflect on themselves and think about, is it something they would want to do, and maybe educate themselves as much as possible. Like, do I know much? I think I've seen like such a rise in people talking about how they're polyamorous or they're ethically non-monogamous, but they have no idea what that actually means. And a lot of the time I see people who are just not able to invest in any type of relationship with someone else, whether it be casually getting to know them or more long-term getting to know them or on a deeper level. So I think the rise of talking about it is happening, but actually doing it in the proper way is another topic altogether.
People just watch TikToks and think they know.
Yeah, they
everything
think they
about
know.
it. See someone else talking about
They
it.
make up their own version. Yeah.
Okay, so that's all we've got time for.
Yeah, Chantelle, thank you so much. This has been a really insightful interview. We've loved having you on the podcast, and great chatting.
Till next time, show us the snag dog.
Yeah. Okay, good. Take him out. Yes.
Matt's in his element with the sausage jug. Thank you, Chantelle.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Don't hang up
See
yet.
ya.
Sorry, don't